right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Seahawk Talk. This episode is actually called Husky Talk. Today is our first ever Washington Huskies fan guest, the Duke father from Twitter. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm honored to be here.
Good, thank you. Honored to have you. I will tell you that 30-second timer used to have a little bit of a less sensual sound to it.
It was very like I'm in a spa waiting room.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. More, yeah, exactly. You're kind of in an elevator going to a spa.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it used to sound better. I know it's last week, so I do a Seahawks podcast every week.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed it up last week with the timer. I was confused. I thought I hit the wrong button, but I was right. Also, to everybody watching in the future, I got attacked by a toddler this week. That is why there's red on my nose. So don't worry. My wife has not been abusing me. She's still cool, guys. Don't go after her. So
the classic I have a toddler scar. Just a little injury right on
two toddler nephews. Two toddler nephews. We had a sleepover on Saturday, and I woke up to one of them clawing my face. I was so tired. I was asleep. I have no idea which one it was, but I did get clawed in the face by a toddler.
I'll match you battle scars. I was cutting an apple for lunchtime today for my kids, and as I was doing this, my middle daughter thought it would be the right time to jump on my hand that had the knife, and so I'm currently missing just about like the last 16th of an inch of my thumb tip. So that's been wrapped up today.
Not bad. I'll tell you what. Yeah, kids suck, dude. So, anyways,
battle scars.
We were talking a little bit before we came on. We're talking shit about all the people that are going to watch this. No, I'm kidding. Well, no, we're talking about what we think the best win within the last couple of years was, and we were kind of talking. Definitely last year, the best win was Michigan, right?
Unquestionably, that is the best win of the Jedd Fisch era at Washington.
Oh, I think, yeah,
I think not just because it's Michigan, and I don't even think it's because of the national championship. I really don't see that as like the rematch at all, because both teams lost double-digit players to the draft. And they had, Washington and Michigan both had double-digit new starters, right? So they were not the same teams. I really think it was. It's a type of win that, I mean, at the time they were ranked number 10. They should not have been, but they were ranked number 10. So it was a ranked win. And it was also just something to show promise, right? Mm-hmm. You lose the Apple Cup. You have a weird. Had the Rutgers game happened yet? Yeah, the Rutgers game had happened. So they had two weird losses in a row. And I think I went into last season saying I'm happy with 4 wins. Like just do 4 wins if you can get bowl eligibility.
I was saying 8.
Oh, yeah. I with everything that we knew about the O-line headed into last season, I was not expecting much. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they made a bowl was like all I was hoping for, really.
The bowl game was pretty badass.
It was a great bowl game, and it was, I think, a pretty good summation of what their 2024 season had been, which was sloppy start. This team last year was not a first quarter team, right? Even in the non-conference stuff, even in
Northwestern. Northwestern's the conference opponent now. Sorry.
They are. No, but in Weber State and Eastern Michigan, I
Uh-huh.
think they had a combined 7 points in the first quarter of those games. I'm probably wrong on that, but like they were not a first quarter team, and that was
Mm-mm.
true in the bowl game. And then it was really fun to watch, and you had no idea what was going to happen. Which
They-
part of having such a weirdo line means you have no idea what's going to happen on any given play.
Yeah, I don't know. With
Uh,
Demond back there, though, I did want to. One of the biggest. You're right. The biggest win was. Well, we were right. The biggest win was
yeah.
Michigan, but the UCLA game. I went into that game, and everybody was already talking about Demond on
Mm-hmm.
the radio, at least, and
Yep.
people at work. I don't really do any Huskies podcasts. This is my first one, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going, should they give Demond a chance? And I'm going, no, no, no. But by the time
Yeah.
Will Rogers threw that second or third interception, I was in the stands going, you know what? Screw it. Put Demond in. And he did not disappoint, especially against Louisville in the bowl game.
Yeah.
That game after the game, you're listening to the honks on the radio, and
Yeah.
Softy said, would you rather have won that game and Demond had a terrible performance, or lost the game like we did and Demond played awesome? And I agree with him. It sucks we lost, but Demond, that gave you
Yeah.
so much promise for next year.
Yeah. And I think looking back on it, I mentioned to you my theory about the 2024 season being the Avengers Infinity War, and we can get to that in a minute. But I think you saw so much promise, and it's
Mhm.
not like Louisville is not a team UW is going to play very frequently. It's not like there's not a
Hopefully
lot of
not.
skin on the game on that one. Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? When they expand to like a 48 team playoff, then maybe. But
Yeah.
it's not like it was losing to Wazoo or Oregon or a much bigger name like an Alabama or
Mhm.
a Texas or a Michigan or an Ohio State. One of those big
I
ones.
think we could have took Bama. I watched that bowl game. I was like, man, I'm down. I wish we would have played Alabama in that bowl game.
That I have a friend who he's a college football obsessive like I am, and he has a totally irrational thing of we need to make sure that if your coach leaves, your team gets to play that team in 2 years.
Oh,
Like so the rule would be essentially that Oregon would have gotten to play Miami a couple of years ago. Washington would get to play Alabama next season, right? He wants to see those, and I don't think Washington would have been able to beat Alabama. Michigan was still a far more talented team than Washington was this year. The problem with both Michigan and Alabama was not talent, when that was absolutely the problem for Washington.
Yeah.
And it was a talented team. They lacked talent in very key areas, and it also happened to be the key areas that every other Big Ten team has a plethora of talent.
Well, I think you're right. It's not talent, but it was consistency with both those teams, because they could. I mean, look at what Michigan did against Ohio State,
Right.
and you're like, wow, they shut Ohio State down. How are they going to win a bowl game, right? How is Ohio State going to win a bowl game? They go on to win the national championship.
As Michigan's ranking kept lowering and lowering, they kept figuring it out. They figured it out down the stretch on not so much on quarterback, but just on how that team could work, right? You beat Ohio State and Michigan in your last 2 games of the year. How many teams would like to be able to say that,
Yeah, and also, who played quarterback for them in the Michigan or the Alabama game?
They had, I don't actually know off the top of my head who played. I'm going to look this up right now.
Was it the guy that came in that fumbled the ball?
Because they had they were rotating between 3 different quarterbacks, and they played, I think, 2 different quarterbacks in Seattle at the Husky game.
Oh, they did. They started with the orgy, and then it ended up going to number 13. It was a white
Lauren?
guy.
Tyler? No, is that the?
No, that's a Penn State guy.
All right, that's the Penn State guy. You're right. Okay, now I have to look this up.
God, I think.
I know this is dead air. This is not good podcasting.
Oh, don't worry, dude. We have a huge audience of 0 right now. Don't worry.
They'll come. They'll come.
Michigan QB.
Yeah, I mean they figured it out down
Tuttle.
the stretch.
Jack Tuttle.
Jack Tuttle. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's the guy who fumbled against us.
Yep.
And then he threw that interception to Fabiculanan, which is a guy I'm gonna freaking miss. Who I didn't really think I was gonna say that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss Fabiculanan. Kind of transferring into the next topic, not really, but players leaving. We'll start with the players leaving for the draft, and I think we said earlier, Sebastian Valdez is gone. You brought that up. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Valdez is out of eligibility, I believe. He didn't get invited to the combine. I was reading on Christian Caples on Montlake that he had a very impressive pro day when the scouts all came to UW. Apparently had he been invited to the combine, he would have set the record for number of reps on the bench press at 225. I think
really
he did. I believe he did 34 reps at 225, and the most done at the combine was 33. My numbers might be wrong there, but that I remember he showed off great strength when.
How about Russell Davis? He's coming back.
Yep, Russell Davis the second. He's coming back. I think, because he came up from Arizona, I think, with Fisch.
And the question is too, if he can stay healthy. Well, I don't know if he has eligibility or not. Is Durfee going to be back?
Durfee has eligibility for next year.
Okay.
I know he has eligibility for next year. He has an injury. I think they're saying he's not going to participate in spring ball, or he'll be limited in spring ball, but will hopefully be. God, Durfee's one of those guys where it's like you watched him play and you saw it, right? He had what the team needed, and he just cannot stay healthy. I feel bad for the guy because he's just had one reason or another why he's not able to play, be it eligibility weirdness or
in 2023 he wasn't even hurt, right? He was just waiting out a year because
exactly
for some reason you can't transfer from Sioux Falls to Washington and play, but you can transfer from USC to Washington and play. I did not understand why he wasn't eligible for the 23 season.
It was some weird thing of he had 2 transfers and he can't do that, but then they changed the rules like a month after he transferred, and they petitioned, and I think with how weak the NCAA is and how just like anytime there's a breath of litigiousness from any student athlete, if there's even a lawsuit mentioned, they settle. Durfee could probably sue them and get another year of eligibility for the one that he lost in 23, but I don't know.
Yeah, but then you got like 30-year-olds playing college football.
I mean, that's where we're headed, right? Like the end of all
look
of
at
this.
Thaddeus. Look at that. Talking about players leaving. Well, let's talk about players leaving because they're out of eligibility or they're going to the draft, which I think all of them are just out of eligibility. Giles is gone, which sucks because I loved Giles Jackson. He was, my favorite Husky player of all time. I wasn't even old enough to watch him, but I love him on the Honks. Is Mario Bailey. I was gonna bring this up right here. No, that's not the right one. I have 2 Mario Bailey jerseys. One I ordered from China and they messed up pretty bad and put it backwards 2 instead of 5. I thought Giles just rocking the number 5 last year, being a small, shifty guy, was kind of a Mario Bailey. And then who else do we have leaving? Obviously, Carson Bruener. That's another guy. I ordered his jersey legit, not from China. Just because I don't know. I hope he finds his way to the Hawks as like a special teamer because I think he's good enough to be drafted in the 6th round. What do you think? I don't know. I didn't ask how much NFL football do you really follow, or is it just
I
college with you?
It mostly is just college with me. Last year, I was very invested in obviously Penix down the stretch when he finally started playing, and then
And Rome.
in Rome, I was so just transfixed by the Bears getting both Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze.
Mhm.
Like, you get those two players in any year, and that's the best draft class you could imagine, right? Like,
Oh, for sure. And I
I'm
think
obviously
Caleb's still
biased.
good, by the way.
I do too.
Okay, good.
Look at what happened when Jimmy Lake left and Kalen DeBoer came in, and you
Mhm.
had better quarterback play, much better wide receiver play. That's just what's happening to the Bears right now. So I was very invested in them. I don't really follow the NFL. I think I like the Seahawks when they're good. You know, I'm very much a bandwagoner Seahawk fan. Part of it is just the time, right? It's I think I have my sport, and I love college football. And it's so, you don't get miracle runs
Mhm.
like the 2023 Huskies
Oh, dude,
in the
that
NFL,
captivated me. I've
you
always been a
know?
Huskies fan. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not gonna lie to you. That 23 season, actually, I lied. 22 when they beat Michigan State.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, this is pretty sweet. They
Fun
don't
team.
usually they usually don't pull games out like this. And yeah, I think I don't know. Like I grew up, so I was born in '97, so I was
Hmm.
obviously too young to see the national championship team. I was too
Hmm.
young to remember
Hmm.
Tuiasosopo, right? So I'm more of a 0-12 grower up with the Huskies,
Right.
right? And I'm more of a, like when I was a kid, I remember seeing Isaiah Stan. Everybody was talking about Isaiah Stanback, and then Jake
Hmm.
Locker, and then after that was
Hmm.
Keith Price, and it was never like super exciting. I was always a Huskies fan.
Yeah.
But that 22 and 23 team, if they would have just won one of those games against Arizona State, or who was the other one? UCLA? Yeah.
UCLA. Yeah.
If they would have won one of those games, I
I
mean,
know.
which is insane because that we talked about kind of the biggest wins. I don't think we talked about on here. We're going away from what we said again, which is totally fine. I think one of the biggest wins was that Alamo Bowl beating Texas
Yeah.
in
Huge game,
22.
huge win. I think that that whole 22 season, to turn it around from Jimmy Lake, and then there was just such a question mark around DeBoer, which is insane to think that right
Oh,
now.
my. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
you're good. No, but like the head coach of
I think it was
Alabama.
my fault.
You're good. It's crazy
Sorry.
to think that the current sitting head coach of Alabama football 3 years ago, no one was sure if he was good enough to coach at Washington. That's
No.
an insane thing to think about, right?
Mhm.
And you beat Texas, and Texas wasn't like fully back yet, right? This year, everybody was on the Texas is back train. That was less true in 22, right? People were still, they were whispering it, right? And I think they had Arch, but they weren't. He was freshman and all that. Or no, they had Arch in 23. Never mind.
They had
But
Arch in 23, and we were up so
Yeah,
big in the first half. They were
yeah.
talking about putting Arch in the game. I'm sure you remember that in the Sugar
I
Bowl.
do remember this. Oh yeah, yeah. But
I
the year
don't even
before,
remember how we gave up that such a big lead. There, I mean, the Dylan Johnson injury that pissed it,
yeah.
just between you and me and the 3 people that are watching our podcast right now. The Dylan Johnson injury pissed me off so bad. I'm like, crawl off the
Yeah,
field, dude.
I know. I know.
Um,
I
they
think I
shouldn't
heard
have
that
been
they're
in
maybe
that game at
updating those
all.
rules. Yeah.
Well, and then Jeremy Bernard fumbling on the punt return. You remember
Mm-hmm.
that? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we were up by two scores, I think, at that point, and then
Yeah.
Jeremy Bernard fumbles that punt return. That was a big.
Man.
Uh, sorry, we won that game. That was another big one.
We
But
did.
yeah, obviously we won it.
It was the Ryan Grubb overconfidence. I loved watching Grubb's offense. I think you could say he was a little too cute sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, usually being too cute you can be too cute when you have Penix and
Rome.
well, we want to say the 30th best receiving core in all of football, including the NFL in 23. Like they had a better receiving lineup than the Giants, right?
Well, yeah, and not that the offensive line was awesome, and part of that was Penix. Part of that, I don't care what you say, was Michael Penix's release because I've never seen. My dad's friend, who, like I said before we came on, my dad passed away. I watch all the Huskies games with my dad's best friend, and most of the Seahawks games. He said he hasn't seen a release that fast since Dan Marino, and because I brought it up, I go, I've never seen a release as fast as Michael Penix, and I think that did the offensive line wonders.
Yeah,
was how fast he could sling that thing.
Yeah, I mean, there was an alchemy to just how well every piece of that offense worked together, right? And how they were so in tune with each other, how they knew exactly what they needed to be. I don't know it off the top of my head. I don't know how many new starters on offense there were in the 23 season. But that's one of those
23?
things. Yeah,
probably like one. I don't.
So because they lost Taj Davis, I don't remember who else.
Yeah, they did lose Taj Davis, and Kamren Davis didn't play. Dylan Johnson had to step in for him.
Yep. Cam Davis was out basically all year. Yeah,
it was before the season started, I think.
Yeah,
maybe 2.
So I don't know how. I don't think we'll ever see something like that again. I think UW could win a national championship, and we may never see an offense like that again.
Oh no.
It'll be a long time before you have, in the first 3 rounds, your 3 starting receivers, your quarterback, and 2 offensive linemen go pro, right?
Left tackle, right tackle.
Yep, that's a pretty strong.
If Parker Brailsford was older, he'd have gone in the top 2 rounds.
He probably could
have. But yeah, I guess let's switch over to players leaving this year.
Yeah.
Well, via the portal. The one I'm upset about is Thaddeus. I think everybody's kind of upset about that, going to North Carolina.
Yeah.
With Bill Belichick. I really wish we could have kept Steve Belichick, because that defense at points in the year was awesome, just against teams that were good. We weren't very good. But let's I guess before we go through other players leaving, you got coming in to basically replace Thaddeus Dixon. I think that's an A+ upgrade.
Yeah, it sucks to lose Thad. The whole thing with the JUCO eligibility, they weren't planning on him being around. If they had known they'd had another year, they probably could have taken more time to figure out how to make Thad Dixon, Tacario Davis and Ephesians Prysock all work together and feel comfortable about their role. Maybe they should have seen it coming. You can say that Fisch and the coaching staff should probably just always have someone researching how is the NCAA being sued this week to understand what changes may come. But, that all happened so quickly. I think they do net out with an upgrade in Tacario Davis. If Davis and Prysock can play like they did in 23 at Arizona, that's a very strong cornerback duo. Who plays nickel? I don't really know, but that's very
what
strong.
I heard. Yeah, that's Jordan Shaw leaving too. Well, what I had, somebody kind of told me, was basically, you're kind of a Seahawks fan, right? So, they said if Ephesians Prysock is the Byron Maxwell or Brandon Browner, that Mario Davis is the Richard Sherman. Like, he's the better of the two.
Yes.
Which makes me really happy. Because, Prysock was good last year, but he didn't. I expected him to be like a Darrelle Revis back there because of the name value coming in.
Yeah, and he was hyped up, I think maybe because of how well he and Takario worked with John Richardson at Arizona. I expected him before the season to come in and be the clear, cornerback one, CB1. And it very obviously was that all year, right? Like he was the better cornerback all year. And it sucks to lose him, but I think you get Davis in. I still think they net out. I think if you were to, if the weirdness with the NCAA hadn't happened and he still left and Davis still came in, I think you still say it sucks that this guy who loves being at Washington and was a part of the 23 team and stuck around through the coaching change. It sucks that he leaves, but I think you still net out.
And you could tell too on Twitter.
Talent.
On Twitter, you're a Twitter guy. You see Thaddeus Dixon on Twitter basically talking shit to Jabbar Muhammad for leaving for Oregon. You saw that, right?
Yeah. The Keep Thad, the hashtag Keep Thad saga was insane, and it became very quickly very exhausting. I'm doing this thing on my Twitter where every month I'm just tracking the weirdness of the off season, because it felt between last year, obviously you had this nuclear bomb go off in the 2023 off season, and then this year we've just seen some weird stuff happening, the Keep Thad saga being one of them, and Jonte Cook being another.
Jonte Cook, I was gonna bring him up, dude. I was so excited for Jonte Cook. I was telling everybody, I'm like, dude, this guy's gonna be awesome. He can't even last a week on campus. Practice wasn't even going.
Yeah. So I've just been tracking that stuff, and Keep Thad is in the hashtag Keep Thad movement is in there. I think Fisch still, the Twitter account Big Rain.
Yeah.
Or no, excuse me. Yeah. Big Rain.
No, I know Big Rain.
He got retweeted by Fisch saying, like, wouldn't it be amazing if we had Thad and Takario in the backfield together? How amazing would that be? Fisch retweeted that. It's still up. He still has that on his Twitter.
Dude, spring portal is what he's going for.
He's gone. He followed Bill Belichick to North Carolina, and good. Like I'm happy for him. I think he was put in an impossible situation, and he was able to figure it out. He had a tough spot, and hopefully now he'll be able to make a bunch of money and get drafted high. And I really do want him to have a great season. If he went to Oregon, I wouldn't be saying this, but he went to UNC.
Me too.
I'm not going to play to UNC next year.
Well, not even not playing UNC. If we played him like a non-conference game, I wouldn't even be that bummed that he was over there. I think Jabbar leaving for Oregon really, it just pissed me off, because like you beat him twice. Why do you want to join him?
Here's my thing with Jabbar. Jabbar is a mercenary, and he transferred to Washington. He transferred to Oregon, and he was going to he wanted to win a national title. He wanted to raise his draft stock as much as possible. It's not like he signed with Chris Peterson. He did. It's not like he signed with Chris Peterson, right? It's not like, Gear and Hatchet was a bummer to lose. That one's back, done. And he's back now, and I'm really excited about that, right? But it's not like or Mish Powell. That one hurt too, because he was a walk-on at UW, and he wanted to be at UW real bad, and then he left, right? Those are guys who it was a bummer to see him go. Jabbar Muhammad was a great contributor to the best season this century, right? And he gave us a ton. He helped get us to a national title, and then he left, right? And he went to go try to do it again somewhere else, right? When he said he was transferring.
Yeah, if he left for Ohio State, I wouldn't even be that. You know what I mean? It's just the fact they left for Oregon.
Yeah.
It
I
was
get
like
that.
because when Mish Powell left and Asa Turner, right? Both went
Mhm.
to Florida schools. I think Asa Turner went to Florida, and
Yeah, and Mish went to
Mish Powell
Miami.
went to Miami. It didn't bug me. Like it bugged me
Mhm.
because they weren't on the team anymore, but it
Mhm.
didn't bug me that they went somewhere else. But the
Yeah.
whole transferring to Oregon kind of pissed me off. And these are kids, right? These are kids. I shouldn't be like
Yeah.
pissed off that they're going somewhere. But yeah,
You
going to
know,
Oregon's gonna piss me off.
I say this, and then if somebody offered me $1 million to go to Oregon right now, yeah, I would do that. I'd do that in a heartbeat. You
But
kidding me?
other schools were
Million
offering
bucks.
money too, though. It wasn't just
Yeah,
Oregon, you know.
yeah, yeah. No, I get it.
How's talk about the best UW games of the season? I'd
Yes.
argue that Oregon Ohio State was one of the best UW games of the season.
You know, I was not a player, right? I didn't play football at the University of Washington. So it is mostly a media product for me, right? I go to a couple of games a year and I watch the rest of them on TV. And when I think about that, the Michigan game is number one. The UCLA game is right up there for me because that was
USC
one
was
of the
sweet
games that
too.
USC was great. USC was a nail biter. That was just I if that game had gone any different, I don't know how I'd feel about Jedd Fisch right now. I still don't know how
Yeah.
I feel about Jedd Fisch.
Well,
But
speaking of players leaving, Kamori House leaving was probably the biggest one of the off
I
season.
think that's probably the biggest loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's got to be because Dixon you assumed was leaving anyways, right? Until like a week before. But
Yeah, Kamori was
House,
a freshman.
he was a freshman. He played really well. He was a pretty clear, number one on the depth chart at linebacker for next year
Mm-hmm.
with Bruener and Tuputala leaving. And that one stung. That is now his third time in the transfer portal
Really?
or second time in the transfer portal in 1 year of football. I think
Really?
that because he went into the portal when DeBoer left and
Oh,
Fisch kept him on. Fisch kind of
yeah, gotcha.
re-recruited him. And then this year happens, Belichick leaves, he goes into the portal. I think that tells you what you need to know about what he's trying to find. And what was the Coleman thing? We want volunteers. We don't want hostages.
Mm-hmm. Well, how
It
about Peyton Waters was another one leaving.
mm-hmm.
That's really it. But well, I have all the names, not all the names, but
Mm-hmm.
I have Dixon, Shaw, Keith Reynolds, who
Mm-hmm.
returned
Mm-hmm.
kicks, if I remember right, all last year.
Yeah.
Lance Holtzclaw is kind of a big one leaving.
Yeah, he had the big sack was it against USC or UCLA?
I think it was USC.
Yeah.
And then Kamori House, Curly
Mm-hmm.
Reed, Cam
Mm-hmm.
Davis, who once again who thought he'd have another year of eligibility.
Yep.
That's another one. I'm rooting for him at Minnesota.
Me too.
Like
100%.
I really am.
Yep.
Guard Memelar is leaving.
Also to Minnesota.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. The one that I thought was weird was Jack McAllister's leaving. Do you know
Well,
why?
they brought in Australian punter Dusty Zimmer, which is my favorite sentence to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, special teams was a problem, and I think Fisch brought somebody else in, and he wants to keep it at 85 scholarships. I don't know if you have room for 2 scholarship punters. So
Yeah, I was just that was one when he left. I was like, what? Jack
yeah,
McAllister's leaving. I'm surprised that Grady Gross is gonna be on scholarship. That was a rough season for him, but I
yeah.
accept Gross missing all those field goals last year because he was so good in 23.
This is the hill that I will die on. Is UW does not make the national championship game without Grady Gross in 2023. There is how many games did they win by a margin of less than the total points scored by Grady Gross? Right,
Mm-hmm.
like 9. So I think he had a weird season. And can we point to a single game where we lost it because Gross missed a kick?
Rutgers.
No, we lost the Rutgers game because a player ran onto the field and overwrote a defensive stop.
I was gonna bring it. I was gonna kind of bring up the freshman, and I wasn't sure which one. It was a freshman.
It was a freshman, and that was what was the end of the Rutgers game? A 45-yard kick?
Yeah. No, but it was he missed like 3 field goals and an extra point that game.
He did. I'm not saying that was his best game. I'm saying that they may have lost in part because if Gross had hit all his kicks, they might have won. But the reason they lost that game is because their special teams unit was terrible, not just Grady Gross. And they were celebrating. They had a player run onto the field in front of a referee. This is the dumbest possible play, or the dumbest possible action you can make when you got to stop. You had a defensive stop, and then like 3 plays later, Rutgers has a touchdown.
Yeah, and I stayed up till like 11 p.m. because of that stupid game.
Oh, that game. So that game was on a Friday, and I didn't realize it was on a Friday. My family knows we don't book stuff on Saturdays because I'm watching football. I didn't realize that game was on a Friday, so we had booked family photos for that Friday night. And so I had turned my phone off, and we get home. We get home at like 8 o'clock at night, get the kids to bed, all that.
It just started, dude.
Well, we got home, we got the kids to bed, and I turn it on. The game is almost over by the time I turn it on. So it's just me and a buddy who's already watched the game. And I'm just texting him like, okay, I just saw this. Oh my God, this guy just ran on the field. And he's just like, oh, just you wait. Oh, just you wait.
Yeah, they're running on the field. I will say that was Gross's biggest mess up game. But yeah, whoever the freshman was that ran on the field, I don't remember who it was. I'm hoping it's Kamori House. But players coming in.
Probably wrong on that. Yes.
Players coming in. Kai Thornton, great backup quarterback from Tulsa.
Yep.
I guess he's kind of like a Will Rogers almost.
Hey, sure. Great. We'll take it.
Yeah. Jonte Cook, not going to work out. I didn't even write him down, but like I said earlier, I was stoked about Jonte Cook coming aboard for about a week.
How do you feel? Let's pause on Jonte here because I want to hear, what do you think about the whole situation? Where do you land on it? There's some people who think this is a bad look. This is a bad look for the coaching staff. There's some people
I heard it.
Where do you land?
No, that's a bad look for him. I mean, I heard that he was like trying to go to Colorado, and when Deion Sanders is like, "Nah, you're too much." That's kind of the issue right there.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Omari Evans, the Penn State wide receiver. That made the Jonte Cook thing less painful because I was like, we got Denzel Boston and Rashid Williams, right? I don't think I can name another one right now.
Yeah, they signed a ton of freshmen. They have 5 receivers coming in, 5 true freshman receivers coming in, and it's a very inexperienced room, right? Boston is wide receiver 1. Clearly, they were hoping Jonte could come in and take the number 2 slot. They got Evans, who doesn't have like the best production, but he was also at Penn State, and they didn't complete a pass in the second half of their playoff games. So I'm not too worried about. Again, it's a Roma Dunze under John Donovan thing. Like I think you had the right player. You could have maybe, in Omari Evans's case, you may have had the right player under the wrong coach, right? So we'll see what he can do. I think we'll see a lot of rotation at wide receiver this year because they have a ton of new guys.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing is that's my downfall when it comes to Huskies football. Is I don't really pay attention to the freshman class until they actually play. And that's why the one thing I texted you the show sheet before didn't really include freshmen because I heard they had a great recruiting class, but it's like I haven't really seen any of these guys ever. So
yeah, they signed a really big class. I think it's a good class to build on, right? They got 6 offensive linemen, a couple of defensive linemen. Right? They signed 25 players, so they basically have. They signed a kicker. They signed a long snapper. Like, I think they could field an entire team with just the freshmen they signed. Not with any depth, but they have enough people at every position. So I think it'll be interesting. The 23 class at Arizona, or excuse me, the 22 class at Arizona was kind of this big, like, wow, look at what Arizona's doing. They just went 5-7 or whatever they did in 21, and look at what they're doing. So I think it'll be a good class to build on. I'm curious what happens this year. I try not to follow recruiting. I feel weird being an adult man who knows the names of teenage boys. Like, that just feels strange to me.
Well, college football in general. I mean, we all do, but it's just
adults,
that's where not where I draw the line, because that sounds like I'm being an ass to people that do follow high school football, but it's like that's where I'm like, I just can't. 45 of those 50 guys on the college football team are never going to play football again if it's a good high school football team.
Yeah.
So, I think linebacker really, even though losing Kamari House looked awesome. We have that guy from Wazoo. Can't pronounce his last name or first name.
That's Buddha Alukta, right?
Yep, right there.
Yep.
You got it.
And then Xri Alexander coming in from UCF.
Xiri Alexander, and then Jacob Manu from Arizona, I think, was the biggest one. And then I did want to ask if you know anything about this. The defensive end from Arizona, Tati Uiagalelei, is he related to DJ?
He's their cousin. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So DJ and Mateo at Mateo Uiagalelei is at Oregon. He was their big edge rusher. Defensive line. He plays on the defensive line. I don't know if he's an edge or a nose guard or something.
Same thing.
Their cousin is it Tai? I don't have his name in front of me.
Yeah, Tai Uiagalelei.
Yeah. Yep. He's their cousin. I'm interested to see him play as well.
Yeah, and then tight end Cade Eldridge from USC. Now that's going to be kind of nice because we did not see the guy that scored the touchdown versus Oregon. What's his name? Quentin Moore.
Yes.
Did he play last year? I don't think so.
Yeah. He got that freak injury in the
first game,
or Eastern Michigan, whichever game was first. Yeah. When they came off the sideline and tackled him, he was out all season. So he'll be back next year. And he's number one, and then they got.
Oh, he's coming back.
He's coming back. Yep.
I didn't know that. I just assumed he was gone.
He could have gotten an injury waiver, but then the JUCO ruling came through, so he was in the same position as Thad, where he played a year in JUCO, and so he got an extra year of eligibility granted.
Sweet. And then DeGraff, I liked him. He
Decker
came up
DeGraff.
Clutch, dude.
That's my boy.
I was stoked on him. Yeah.
He was really fun to watch this year. I've read a bunch of stories, either Seattle Times or on Mount Lake has talked about him a bunch, and he is one of those, like him and Adam Muhammad and
Adam Muhammad's coming back.
Yeah. Him,
which is
Adam
insane
Muhammad,
that Adam Muhammad's going to be the clear-cut number 2 running back.
Oh yeah. That's a really good duo, right? Coleman and Adam Muhammad is a very strong
dude.
duo.
Did you see Coleman's not sound weird? Can't say that other word on the internet anymore. Did you see his transformation photo in like 8 weeks? Coleman?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
He's scary. I saw him, I think this was on the Say Who Say pod. They described him as a fire hydrant being shot out of a cannon, which just is very He's built like a fire hydrant, and he runs like he's been shot out of a cannon.
Dude, he's the man. He's probably the best running back we've had since Gaskin.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what with Coleman and Muhammad as a sophomore heading into next year, when was the last time there were two running backs of this caliber? Because you think about Gaskin, like, they've had strong running backs, and obviously Dylan Johnson was a phenomenal running back. But then who was number 2 on the depth chart? I don't know. I don't remember the last time there was
the guy that beat up the bicyclist. Who was the guy that beat up the bicyclist?
Yeah, Tybo Rogers.
Yeah, Tybo. Tybo did not make some good life decisions. He's probably He's probably a Bama right now.
No, he's awaiting trial and in jail.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry. You should go play for Oregon. But
I don't know that he will see freedom anytime soon.
Sorry. I'm glad you're laughing too, because I've best 2 running backs.
I don't know.
Kaufman and Greg Lewis.
Yeah.
Whoever was behind Polk. Who was behind Polk?
I don't know. I don't have the depth charts in front of me.
Who was right behind Polk? Because they had a decent running back over Polk, right?
I can't remember. I'm so terrible with
names. Sankey. Wasn't Sankey right behind Polk?
Okay. Yeah. That sounds right.
I mean, that's the last duo that I can think of.
Yeah.
We had a white guy in like 2019, 2020. I don't even remember his name. Who was that?
Disqualified. See, this is where my gap starts. During COVID, I could not keep up with football. I completely checked out of the 21 and 20 seasons. For whatever reason, the world was just on fire. And I was like, I don't actually have the brain space for football right now. So there's just this gap of my football fandom. And it happens to be the Jimmy Lake era.
Good. That's the best era. Actually, I don't know. The Willingham era might have been a good one to check out of, actually.
My joke there is that so I grew up in Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And both my parents went to UW. So I have been a Husky fan as long as I've been alive. And we grew up in Oregon. We had season tickets. Even when we lived in Oregon, we would still go up. But 2008 was the first year that my family had HD TV.
That sucks.
I was this Husky fan living in Oregon, watching in the highest definition possible at the time, my team just getting absolutely trounced.
Every week. Every week.
Just and that's when I became a fan. That's when I knew it's not going to be an easy road being a fan of Seattle sports.
That's funny. So like the same thing. So I was 11 in 2008, and that's when the Seahawks went 4-12. And I just remember like thinking to myself when I was 11 years old, and I was like, I'm never switching teams. Like this is the worst it gets. And I'm happy I've never switched teams. I because the lowest of lows, I mean, makes the Super Bowl run or the national championship run that much more important to you because you've watched them suck ass before.
I did watch the Montana game. That honestly was the game that did it for me, because I was watching the Montana game and I was trying to dip my toe back into the water of college football. Pandemic was still kind of happening there at that time, and I was like, I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. I can't do this to myself. But imagine it's the Montana game. You've just finished it. Montana has won the game, and you hear then in less than 3 years, your team is going to be going to the national championship. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. How about, well, I mean, sometimes I go back and I go on iHeartRadio and listen to the honks after the Montana game. And it just makes it so much sweeter that, we went to the national championship, or even that we beat Michigan last year, because that's like the lowest moment of, I'm not going to say of this century because 2008 happened, but of this
You call it
past
the
10
playoff
years.
era. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we lost to Rutgers. That sucks. But could lost to Montana at home.
Yeah.
Week 0.
Well,
week 1.
let me give you my theory on the 2023 or the 2024 season. So I know you said you haven't seen the Avengers, but I have a working theory that Avengers Infinity War, it ends on a big cliffhanger, right? Spoilers for a movie that's now 8 years old.
Okay.
7 years old. It ends with a bunch of the main characters dying, right? And it is so clearly a half a movie, right? All these main characters die, and you're just kind of like, oh, well, what happens next? And then Avengers Endgame comes out, a year later, and I love that movie. I think it's great, and it kind of redeems all the stuff that I didn't like about Infinity War. But Infinity War, you walk out of it and you go, okay, well, clearly there's going to be another one, right? They've already announced it. We know it's going to happen. But they kind of have to land this plane. Like they set it up well, but they didn't tell a complete story, right? It's not like any other movie where there's a beginning, middle, and end. You leave the theater after watching Infinity War in the middle of the story. So you're kind of just like, all right, well,
and if
Endgame is good. Yeah, exactly. If Endgame is good, then this will have been worth it. But if Endgame is bad, then what the hell did I just watch? And I think with the 2024 season, there was a lot to like about it, right? Damon played amazing, and there's a lot of young players who show a lot of promise, and a lot of the problems that they had, O-line aside, they need to build the O-line, and unfortunately, that is the slowest position group to change for the positive, right?
Well, dude, but imagine being a Seahawks fan too, and a Huskies fan.
But they showed a lot of great promise in the things that need. Okay, Damon takes too many sacks. He needs to learn how to throw the ball away. Well, I'd rather.
It's been 2 games, though. It's been 2 games
against playoff teams. I'd rather have a quarterback who throws the ball away too late than too soon, right? Because you can tell him to throw it too early. But trying to teach a scared quarterback to hold on to the ball is going to be a lot harder than trying to teach an overconfident quarterback when to throw, what the timing there should be. So I think when we look at 2025 and really 2026, have you seen their 2026 schedule?
No, actually.
It's very, very light. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Ohio State. They do play Penn State. Their hardest game is probably Penn State at home or Oregon on the road, right? They play USC. Maybe USC is good by that point, but I'm still in the Lincoln Riley is not going to do anything at USC camp.
Yeah.
They play Nebraska. Maybe Nebraska's turned it around by then.
I think it's bullshit that we don't play USC this year.
I know. I would have loved to ruin that season for a 3rd year in a row.
No, I just think you play the 4 West Coast teams together every year. I was just surprised that we don't play USC this year.
Yeah. I think the Big Ten has said that they will play the 4 West Coast teams will play each other every year just to make scheduling easier and travel easier. But with the first couple of years being in the league and they had to move stuff around, there's just weirdness for the first couple of years, but that they will play every year.
Dude,
I think there should be a trophy.
That fucking band. Oh my god. So my seats at the Huskies game are on the Husky sideline. Closest, honestly, I'm almost the closest seat to the lake, right? Or the Puget Sound, I guess you would, to Montlake.
Yeah.
That's where they put their fucking band this year, right above my head. And I always thought too, I'm like, USC fight song's pretty sick, right? Like it is a pretty iconic fight song.
Oh, sure.
Even you can admit that. Yeah, hear it 4 quarters in a row. You're like, fuck, I never want to hear that song again. It sucks.
Yeah.
Just the
you sit next to a horn section for any repetitive stretch of music, you're gonna want to pull your hair out.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're gonna get to really anything else, to be completely honest with you. Would you like to come on again soon?
I'd love to. Yeah, this is
That
great.
that was kind of weird asking live. I think that was
That's
weird,
okay.
but
That's all right. I can give my deranged takes again.
yeah, well, let's end this right here because I don't want to get into something else and I'm about to piss my pants. So with that, guys, thanks for everybody that's tuned in, has tuned in, or will tune in the future. Appreciate it. This is the Dog Father. I put his Doog Father, by the way.
Thank you.
I put his location. I put his link in the bio.
Please don't share my location.
Yeah, no, I have his location up right now. He's in Russia. But that's his link on Twitter. Make sure to go ahead and give him a follow. I'd appreciate it, and we'd appreciate it. With that, I think we're out. You got anything else?
No, thanks for having me on. This is great.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Talk later. Thank you.